So it's Tuesday again, which means we're going to be talking about something wedding related. And today we're finishing up something from last week where, we had someone ask a question. There were multiple things in the question. So I'm covering today what I didn't cover before. Last week we were talking about seating, like where assigning seating, how to seat people, things of that nature. And today we are talking about your wedding party. Now, she had asked about whether or not you should have the same amount of people on each side. And, that question could be answered in probably like 3 or 4 minutes. So I've expanded the topic a little bit, and we're just talking about the wedding party in general. We were talking about lots of different tips about the wedding party. Even if you've already picked your wedding party, if you know exactly who's going to be in it, there's still some tips in here that I think will be helpful for you. Some things, that you may not have thought about, you may not have considered, or might just help you dealing with a problem. All right. So before we get into that, I am still tossing out my new t-shirts that I randomly got. And today we have Spider-Man, Daredevil, and Deadpool playing together. So definitely like that one. Hopefully you guys are Marvel fans out there. I will say, out of all the movies, I still feel like Deadpool is one of my favorites just because it's so funny. But anyway, let's jump into the information. Today we're talking everything about your wedding party. And I say everything, that's not true. I'm sure there's lots of things that I won't cover, but I'm going to try and cover as much of this information as I can. And, the things that popped into my head, the things that I've had to deal with in the past, the things that, people have asked me about. So it may not be every single thing about your wedding party, but hopefully it's the major things and will be helpful to you. So the very first thing that I've found people struggle with is picking the people to be in the wedding party, and that is extremely important. I feel like I skipped something. Maybe I didn't. Okay, maybe they're in the wrong order. Okay, so apparently these are in the wrong order, but that's okay. So we'll go with it this way. So picking the wedding party is pretty important. These are the people you are going to be with all day long on your wedding. These are also the people that might, throw a bachelorette or bachelor party for you, and you'll have to hang out with them. So the point is, you want the right people. You want people that are going to fit exactly what you're wanting, that aren't going to cause problems and everything else. So one of the first questions is, what kind of group, what kind of atmosphere are you looking for? Are you one that likes things really chill and laid back? Are you wanting a big party? Are you wanting just complete craziness? Do you want it to be funny? So what are you going for? And, that can kind of lead to who gets put into your wedding party. So you might just make a giant list of all the options, like all of your friends, family members, and, and there's going to be some people you just have to put in there and you don't really have a choice. But I still think there's this area where you have like a few open spots, or you might add even more, just kind of depending on that. So, try and get a good mix of the people you're putting in there. You don't want 5 people that are all loud and crazy and ridiculous that are going to just be going nuts. And on the other hand, you don't want 5 people that are all super quiet and they don't do a whole lot and they're just going to be sitting around hanging out the whole time. So I suggest a kind of mix of personalities. And there's a lot of other things besides being loud and crazy and quiet. Think about the skills they bring to the table. Think about their personalities. Think about their backgrounds. But you want to kind of get a mix of those people as much as possible. And, oh wait, now I know why I did that. Here we go. And when you're looking at this also, think about the people. Are there is there anyone on the list that doesn't get along with someone else? Is there like this big issue between your cousin and your sister? Is there a big issue between two friends from high school? You don't want drama. You don't want people arguing and hating each other and just this like overall cloud of yuckiness on your wedding day. So you want to make sure you're not picking people that there's going to be just this negative feeling between them. Okay. And you should know if there's that situation or not. And also another thing to think about, is there anyone who's going to be super upset if you leave them out? So thinking about your relatives, thinking about your lifelong friends, I mean, some of them won't be upset if they're not picked to be in your wedding party, but some of them will throw a giant fit and be upset with you for the rest of their life. So that is also just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. And I didn't put this in here, but if there is a person that's going to be upset, but you really don't want them in your wedding party, one way to solve that is to give them some other position. So they could be like the person handing out things at the door of the wedding ceremony. They could be the person that walks people down, so like ushers. So there are ways to get around that, but it is important to think about, are people going to be upset if they're not picked? Because you don't want people getting upset. All right. Now that you have a general idea of kind of these are the people, you might whittle it down even more when you start considering the number of people in your wedding party. I would say on average, it's usually 4 or 5 people on each side. I've seen some weddings where it's like 10 people on each side. I've seen some weddings where it's like 1 person on each side. But I think the majority of the time, it's usually 4 or 5 people on each side. Now, there are some problems that come with the different sizes. If you get too big, so like we're talking about 7, 8, 9, whatever, people, that's going to take up a lot of space. So like if you're doing a party bus, can you fit 20-something people on this party bus? When you're thinking about tables, can you fit 20-something people? When you're thinking about the ceremony, can you fit 20-something people up on the stage? When you're trying to do photos, can you fit 22 people into a photo? That's hard to do. And even more importantly, when you have, so if there's 10 bridesmaids, can the bride really spend quality time with every single person? Probably not. That's going to be hard to do. It's going to be hard to pay attention to 10 other people on the wedding day. Now, it's a lot easier if there's only 4 of them, so they can spend time with each one of them. Now, the opposite side, when the wedding party is too small, the biggest limitation is there's just not a whole lot that goes on and not a whole lot of variety. So, I mean, if it's, if y'all are getting ready and you have 1 bridesmaid, it's just you 2 the whole time. I mean, how much interaction, how much stuff is going on when there's just 2 of you? Same thing when you're talking about like group photos or whatever. How many different shots can you get of just 2 people? Not a whole lot. So too big can be an issue, too small can be an issue as well. And that's why I like to say, 4 to 5 is a pretty solid number of what you should be aiming for. So you have your list of people, you have kind of that number, and then you can kind of whittle it down, like I said, figure out who actually is making the cut and getting into your team. Now, some other things, and this was the actual question that brought up, do you need to have the same amount of people on both sides? Depends on who you are and how much you care about things. So, I mean, if they're even, you're going to have symmetry, so it'll look even from one side to the other. It's like it may look a little weird if you have 2 on one side and 5 on the other, or even if it's like 3 on one side, 4 on the other. It'll just be off a little bit. That's not the end of the world, though. It's not that big of a deal unless you're just like really, I guess OCD might be the word. I don't know. You're just really obsessed with things looking that way. Some people worry about, if we have uneven amounts, when they exit the chapel, who's going to hold who, like, you know, they wrap arms around each other, or like when they do the grand entrance, there might be one person left out, and that's not that big of a deal because you can always pair up. You can always have one person walking with two people instead of just one person walking with another person. So I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it should fit more into the people that you want. If the numbers are not equal, but you've got the people you want, then I'd say stay with it. Don't worry too much about it. You don't have to go and search for a new friend to make things even. I think you'll be okay. Another thing that is kind of been happening recently is I've seen a decent amount of people mix the sides. So traditionally you would have all guys on one side and all girls on the other. I've seen a decent amount where, where they're mixing. So having some guys on one side and maybe some girls on the other side. And that usually happens because, let's say the guy is really good friends with the bride. So he probably, if he doesn't even know the groom at all or whatever, why would you stick him over there with the guys? That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So if that relationship is really close, then that makes sense to move them to the other side. I would suggest, depending on the situation, you ask the person what they want. Don't just automatically put them on a side. There's some people, like, it may be really awkward for a girl to be hanging out with these guys all day long, or it may be really awkward for a guy to be hanging with a bunch of girls all day long. So I would just ask them and see what their preference is, see if they care or whatever. You just don't want to force someone into something where they're going to feel uncomfortable. All right, another random thing that comes up with wedding parties, selecting outfits. And this is usually with the ladies. The guys don't care as much, and the guys are usually just going and getting a suit from someplace. So they don't have to usually make much of a decision at all. They're usually just told what to wear. So with the girls, though, it usually comes down to either the bride choosing something or the bridesmaids having some freedom of choice. So if the bride is choosing, I would say, the good thing about that is it's real simple. People don't have to go and think about things. They don't have to go and search for things. And everyone's going to look the same. When everyone has to buy the same dress or whatever, it's going to look very uniform and not have someone sticking out and looking different. It also takes the pressure off of the bridesmaids. So like I said, they're not having to go and search and try on and do a bunch of things. They just have to buy what you tell them to buy. One thing though, be a little considerate of the price of the dresses you're making them buy. They may not want to spend $400 on a dress they're just gonna use once, right? So yes, it matters what the dresses look like, but be considerate of people. If you know someone's on a tight budget, don't make them spend a ton of money on a dress. Now, if you're letting them choose, I would still give guidance on the color and style of the dress. So they're not looking super different. It's really cool is when you see like every girl have a certain different color and it's like shades or whatever. Or they're all wearing the same color, except it's different shades of that color. And it just looks kind of neat that way, but you don't want just complete random up there. The good thing about this is they can find what they like and what fits them best. If you choose a dress for them, it may not fit them well, and they may feel really self-conscious the entire day. And they can also find something that fits within their budget. Gifts. These are your closest friends and family. They shouldn't be in your wedding party if you don't really like them a lot. They are going to be committing time, money, and energy into you and your wedding day. So, it's not just like a big party for them. They are spending money. They are spending time. They are doing things for you. So it makes sense that you give them something to show your appreciation. And it doesn't have to be anything really big or expensive. It can be something simple. But, just the act of, guys, I like you, or I appreciate you. I love you. This is for you because you are doing this for me. I think that's a good thing to do. Now, as far as what you can do, you could always go and just pick one thing and give it to everybody. Or if you really want to be creative, you can come up with something for each person. So some of the most common ones I see that are just kind of for everybody, the robes are extremely popular. Bags with like their initials embroidered on it. Cups for guys, flasks. You could do like a little gift bag with random things in it. You could do gift cards. I mean, there's hundreds of things you could do. Now, if you want to get more custom and personal, I really like the idea of finding pictures from your past with each person and like getting it framed and giving it to them. I think that would mean a lot. Finding out whatever each person's favorite food or drink is and having it available to them on the wedding day would be cool. Finding something related to their job, hobby, or personality. So if they are big Kansas City fans, you get one person, a jersey. Someone else is big into, we'll say Marvel, since we were talking about that, Marvel. You get them something related to X-Men, whatever. Okay, so there are different ways to go about it, but again, I think it's kind of a cool thing to do, giving them a gift. And other random tips that didn't really fit into anything. Make sure when you're scheduling things, you do set aside time to actually hang out with them. Don't make this like a super, super fast day where you don't even spend time with them and you don't even see them. Make sure there's time for hanging out. Make sure there's time for the reception where you can do things with them as well. Make sure you are interacting with everybody. Don't just forget about don't spend all your time with just like two of them and then ignore the rest of them. Make sure you're spending time with every single person in your wedding party. Telling them how much they mean to you, like something special you really love about them. I think that's awesome to tell them that. Make it like this deep, meaningful moment. I think that would be a great thing to do at some point. Don't give them major jobs. I mean, it's okay for them like, here, carry my bouquet, but don't be like, here, decorate the entire place. Here, make sure everything is in the right place at the right time. Don't do that because then they're working and they're not having fun. So don't give them jobs. And the last one, I've seen some funny stuff. Allow them to have fun, but don't let it get too crazy. I have seen some stuff over the years. I've seen people super drunk, almost pass out drunk before the ceremony even starts. I had one groomsman jump off about it might have been a 10-foot, 15-foot balcony down to us. I'm glad he didn't break his ankle. I've seen guys later in the night take off their shirts and jump around with just their vests on. I've seen a person urinate in public. So it's good to have fun, but don't let them go too crazy, because then there's a point where it's just too much. And if I could think of any other funny stories, I'd throw them out right now, but I think that's about it. All right. So your wedding party is important. These people mean the world to you. And, honestly, they could be a big difference between whether your wedding day goes smoothly, whether you have fun or not. So it's important to, take all this into consideration. Make sure you're picking the right people. Make sure those numbers are good and kind of fit what you're going for, whether you don't want it too big, too small, whatever. Do things that are fun with them. Do things that are meaningful with them. Give them gifts. And don't let them get too crazy. All right, guys. I hope that was helpful. If you have other topics that you would like me to cover, always feel free to reach out, and I'm always looking for things to talk about. And I am here to help you, and I can't help you if I don't know what to help you with. All right, guys. I will be back again next week. So remember, laugh, love, repeat. If you do that, guys, everything's going to be okay. Just laugh with your friends, love your family members, and just do that over and over again. All right. See you guys.